The next three questions will be for the City Council candidates only. The first question is a 90-second question, and it is, what do you believe the City Council can do to increase economic opportunity for new businesses and citizens within the Smithville community? Mr. Armour, 90 seconds. Go.
Smithville the City Council already has an economic development program in place, and they've, as I mentioned earlier, recently completed a survey on what the citizens of Smithville want to see and the kind of businesses that we want to see take place and grow in Smithville. And I think the City Council needs to actively pursue these things and look for the businesses that fit what the people of Smithville want. Nobody wants a Walmart on Main Street, but we do need to do something to bring more job opportunities for the local citizens and keep some of the sales tax dollars that go down the highway to Bastrop or go down the highway to LaGrange here in Smithville to help reduce the tax burden that we have on all the local residents. And also, after I retired from the Navy, I served for 5 years as a Bastrop County Juvenile Probation Officer, and the City of Smithville was my focus. I had all the kids that came through the court system, and one of the major concerns expressed both by the parents and by the children, you know, they had fees that they had to pay. And it's a burden on the families because the families in Smithville, most of them are dual earner incomes if there are two parents, and there's no opportunity locally for these children to also come in. And I think by actively promoting new businesses in town and seeking out to expand current people that are here, we can increase opportunities, not just for the adults that are seeking employment, but get some job training experience for the youth in our town so that when they graduate from high school, if they're not going to college, they have somewhere to go. Thank you.
Ms. Morgan.
The recent economic development survey, which will soon be available on the city website, has information on the types of businesses that citizens want and have said that they will support. This information is pertinent to our current businesses as well as to potential new businesses. We also have labor shed and population characteristic information. We have data pertaining to existing area businesses, and also a list of available properties from which we can construct proposals that are targeted to specific potential investors. We're also working with both local banks to put together attractive financing packages to encourage business expansion and development. We need to examine our current zoning and other city ordinances to ensure that as we grow, we encourage the types of housing and businesses that we want. We also need to ensure that we locate them appropriately to ensure that we preserve the small town feel that our citizens consistently identify as one of our greatest assets. For economic opportunity for citizens, we need to encourage business development that adds jobs and provides skills training. The city can play a proactive role in utilizing state, local, and educational institution resources to offer training, mentoring, and internship programs for students and adults, such as those offered now through the library and groups like Technology for All. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rayleigh.
Thank you. I didn't get an email that I guess everyone else got, so I'm just going to kind of wing it here. Two things I think that we should do. The first is we should talk to the managers, city mayors, city administrators of other towns in Central Texas that are like us in size. Our population is 3,855. And how they've managed to keep their main street alive, keep it revitalized. Secondly, we should talk to the businesses that have been here for 50 years, and 60 years, and 30 years, and ask them, how did you do it? How did you stay profitable in good times and bad? Get their input. But when I talked to the city, when I went around to the city and talked to the businesses, they told me, City Council, City Hall acts like they don't care what we think. That has to change. Our businesses have stayed here. They've been loyal to us. We need to be loyal to them. So first, we need to talk to other towns and find out how they've managed to revitalize their main street and bring businesses in. I spent 2 weeks ago the whole afternoon with the city manager of LaGrange. They're doing something right. We're not. Thank you.
Mr. Gordon.
It's my belief that City Council should partner and support ongoing activities of existing organizations that foster, promote, and sell the idea of Smithville as a business location destination. Such efforts are already underway and they exist right now, non-governmental and getting surprising results. I'm not at liberty to name them, but many of you know who this organization is and the people that are involved. And you can ask your neighbors and you'll find out. Our proximity to Austin offers us a significant advantage that we don't exploit. Let's exploit this fact. Let's promote the quaint, tranquil, small town living that we offer while simultaneously having a world-class internet infrastructure offered in only a few communities, having the only public airport in Bastrop County, a major resource that can help transform our town. And we also have first-rate medical facilities, just to mention a few. I have older friends, and they won't move here because their main concern is that we don't have sufficient medical facilities. They are actually uneducated about the fact that we do have significant and important medical facilities in Smithville. So maybe they'll come here someday. Also, we know that Smithville is already a film-friendly destination. So the process of selling Smithville is already underway. It's been shown and evidenced by such businesses as Bone Spirits, Old World Bakery, etc. Thank you.
Mr. King.
The bottom line of that is, we got to be able to encourage the citizens to shop local, or there is no economic opportunities. If we don't shop, the stores can't stay open. And the benefit to us to shop locally is we get a little bit of sales tax revenue that relieves us a little bit on our taxes.
Thank you. Mr. Saunders.
I highlighted earlier that during my term over the last couple of years, we have done much in the category of economic development. Some tasks that we completed were an economic development survey, the adoption of a 10-year strategic plan, the development of a subdivision potentially bringing in over 80 new homes, the development of an industrial park, etc. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. One very exciting development in our community is the addition of fiber internet. This will make our community very enticing to the eyes of potential new business owners. We are also developing incentive programs to help entice companies that show interest in expanding into our area and providing local jobs. I've heard it my whole life. We don't want big box stores here. Then in the next breath, but we need something to do here. Rest assured, there are ways to expand economically without throwing out our small town charm. I know the downtown merchants would love to see more foot traffic on Main Street. The Chamber of Commerce does an outstanding job hosting events downtown to help. Councilwoman Morgan and Sheila Tamble have started a downtown merchants group, and they hold meetings to discuss downtown issues. I'm looking forward to participating in this meeting and helping in any way that I can. There are also economic development agencies in the governor's office where prospective Texas business owners go for information as to where to locate. This is a perfect place to look for a good fit in our community. There's much more to do and no one can do it alone. We have to work together with each other, with our chamber and Tina, with our county and Adina, like we always have, to promote Smithville and ensure a prosperous future. Thank you, Moderator Morris.
And the final question for our city council candidates is also a 90-second question. The City Council appoints representatives to the Bastrop Appraisal Board of Directors and receives income from property taxes. Some of the commercial properties in Smithville are taxed higher than those in Bastrop and Elgin. Per the State Comptroller, the Bastrop County Appraisal District values some of our properties are higher than their recommendation. The tax liability makes it very difficult for our small town businesses and homeowners to budget when taxes increase substantially each year. What will you do to be sure our properties are not overtaxed? Mr. Armour, 90 seconds.
I haven't seen the state comptroller's report, but I know as a taxpayer in the city of Smithville that our taxes do keep going up. And I would like to determine what's the reason for that discrepancy. And then once finding out what the reason for that discrepancy is, determine if it's a necessary discrepancy. As we've talked about, every candidate's mentioned the need for a larger tax base. When we compare ourselves to Bastrop and Elgin, I don't think that's a fair comparison. They have much more businesses, and they have much more residents, much more housing, and all of that increases their tax base, and therefore, for us to provide the level of services and maintain our aging infrastructure, we're going to have to pay higher taxes. But I'd like to make sure that those are fair and that they are, as I said, necessary taxes. Thank you.
Ms. Morgan?
The city actually has very little control over taxes. Members of the Bastrop County Appraisal District Board of Directors are elected by votes that are allocated to the 7 major taxing authorities within Bastrop County based on each entity's percentage of the value of all property in the county. Our value is relatively small, but we're fortunate in that we are well represented on the Council of 5 with Board President Elaine Seidel and Member Bill Hector, both from the Smithville area. Appraisal districts operate under guidelines set by the State Comptroller's Office. BCAD recently went through a review of their operating procedures and appraisal standards, and they received the highest state ratings for compliance. The state and BCAD look at property types in aggregate within school district within county. At the aggregate level, our appraisal district assessments for Smithville for both residential and commercial property are actually lower than the state estimate. While our overall assessments may be fair in aggregate, any specific property can be overstated. That's why an appeal process exists to give property owners an opportunity to make their case to an appraisal review board that is appointed by the BCAD Board of Directors. The only factor in taxing equation we control is the city tax rate, and our rate is lower than both Bastrop and Elgin. Thank you.
Ms. Rayleigh?
I had a little problem with this question because I didn't really understand it. As Ms. Morgan says, the city council and the school district recommend people for the Bastrop County Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. So that's why it's important who you vote for school board and for city council, because they do have an effect on who gets appointed to the board of directors for Bastrop CAD. The board of directors for Bastrop CAD then appoints the board, the appraisal review board, who are the people you go in front of when you protest your taxes. The only authority that the city or the school board has is to set the tax rate, which, as Ms. Morgan said, is lower than both Elgin and Bastrop. It's not lower than some of the other towns around us, like LaGrange, Caldwell. So it's important to pick the right candidate for that reason, because you know they'll have input on who gets put on your tax appraisal board. The state comptroller has absolutely no say in the tax rate or the valuation of your property. Your valuation of your property is determined by the Bastrop County Appraisal District. You do have the right to protest it if you don't think that it's fair.
Time.
Thank you.
Mr. Gordon. Thank you. Texas Tax Code Section 23.01 requires all taxable property to be appraised at this market as of January 1st of every year. Market value is the price at which property would transfer for cash or its equivalent under prevailing market conditions with certain provisions. However, as it turns out, many businesses and many business people I've spoken to feel that their valuations are in excess of guidelines set by state comptroller. I don't know if that's just perception, fact, where's the data? We'll have to get that. But nonetheless, a number of downtown businesses, business owners operate on this basis and this perception. So what I think we need to do is make sure that we go forward, go through the normal tax appeal process, if we believe our valuations are too high. This is something I do on a personal basis every year. I've become a nuisance to them, I imagine. And it's something I recommend you all do. So instead of complaining, if you have only a perception, or if it's in fact the case that your valuations are too high, go ahead and make the appeal. In other words, don't complain if you don't act. And as we mentioned a little bit earlier, city government does appoint representatives to the Bastrop Appraisal Board, and it's important that that person, in all cases, regard the interests of individuals in our community as well as the businesses in our community. Thank you.
Mr. King?
I'm not even going to address that one. I had it filled out. I must have left it in the car. I'm not going to blow that one. But if anybody wants to know my opinion on it, they can get with me and I'll go get it out of the car, because I do have it filled out. I'm just not going to try to do that one off my seat.
Thank you. Mr. Saunders?
Raise your hand if you ever tried to ask a city council member about your tax appraisal for the county. Oh, of course you missed the part. For the most part, the city council has very little to do with setting appraisal values. One thing the city council can direct is the ad valorem tax rate, or city property tax rate. In the last 8 years, there has only been a tax increase of 2 3/4 cents. When it comes to fears over taxation, rest assured, they will not come from this council member. To make sure that you're not being overcharged on property taxes, it's important to understand how they are calculated and how property values are determined. The Texas Property Tax Code under Section 25.18 requires each appraisal office to implement a plan to update appraisal values for real property at least once every 3 years. Bastrop County Appraisal District's current policy is to conduct a general reappraisal of taxable property every year. There is in-depth discussion on the topic of your appraisal valuation and how determination decisions are made in a report titled Reappraisal Plan in Mass Appraisal Report. I invite you to look at this document when making budgeting decisions. It is provided on the Bastrop County Appraisal District's website. If you feel you're being overtaxed, there is a way to challenge the appraisal value of your home and business. I can also help you determine your property value with a tool I have as an insurance agent that provides me with a custom evaluation for any property in America. Thank you, Councilor Morris. Moderator Morris.